She could feel their eyes burning into her skin before she even stepped out of the locker room. The whispers started immediately, sharp, cutting, meant to be heard. A woman in her 60s shouldn't be wearing a two-piece at the community pool, they said. And that tattoo? God, what was she thinking? The ink stretched across her shoulder blade, faded now, the edges blurred by decades of sun and time. To them, it was just an ugly mark on aging skin. To her, it was everything she had left of him. Sarah hadn't been to this pool in years. Not since before the accident. Not since before the pain became too much to bear. Both the kind that lives in your body and the kind that never leaves your heart. But her physical therapist insisted. Water therapy, she said. It'll help with the nerve damage. So here she was, exposed and vulnerable, surrounded by strangers who didn't know her story and didn't care to. She wrapped her towel tighter and tried to ignore the teenage girls giggling behind their phones, probably already posting photos to mock her later. She tried to ignore the young mother who physically turned her child away, as if Sarah's scars were something contagious. But what cut deepest was the man in the expensive swim trunks who muttered just loud enough. Some people have no self-respect. She almost turned around, almost fled back to the safety of her car where no one could see the tears that were already threatening to spill. But then she remembered David's voice, the way he used to tease her when she got nervous before his deployments. "You're tougher than you think, Mom," he'd say with that crooked smile. "You're a Navy mom. Act like it." So she dropped the towel, held her head high, and walked toward the pool. Every step felt like walking through fire. The tattoo had been his idea, actually. 3 days before his third deployment to Afghanistan, David had shown up at her house with a mischievous grin and an appointment card for a tattoo parlor. "Come on, Mom. We'll get matching ones. Something to keep us connected while I'm gone." She'd been terrified, 61 years old, and never even considered getting inked. But she couldn't say no to him. Not when he looked at her like that, like she was his whole world. So they did it together. His was on his ribcage, a compass with coordinates pointing home. Hers was on her shoulder. The same compass, the same coordinates, with a small anchor beneath it and the words "My North Star" in his handwriting. He said no matter where he was in the world, that compass would always point him back to her. 4 months later, she got the call. Roadside IED. He was 28 years old. The compass on his ribcage never got the chance to bring him home. But hers remained. A permanent reminder that she was his mother, his home, his North Star. Even if she'd never see him walk through her door again, Sarah lowered herself into the shallow end, the cool water immediately soothing her aching legs. She closed her eyes and tried to focus on the physical relief, but the emotional weight was crushing. Around her, life continued, children splashing, adults swimming laps, the world moving forward like David had never existed at all. She wondered, not for the first time, if the pain would ever soften. If she'd ever stop seeing his face every time she closed her eyes. If she'd ever. "Excuse me, ma'am." The voice was deep, authoritative, but gentle. She opened her eyes to find a man standing at the pool's edge above her. He was younger, maybe late 30s, with the unmistakable bearing of military, straight posture, deliberate movements, eyes that had seen things most people couldn't imagine. He wore simple board shorts and a rash guard, but something about him commanded attention. "That tattoo on your shoulder," he said carefully. "Those coordinates. That's Camp Leatherneck, isn't it?" Sarah's breath caught. She nodded, unable to speak. How did he know? The man crouched down, his eyes locked on hers with an intensity that made the noisy pool fade into silence. "What was his name?" "David," she whispered. "David Martinez. Petty officer first class. Her voice broke. He was a hospital corpsman attached to a Marine unit." The man's expression shifted, something profound passing behind his eyes. He stood slowly, and then, in one fluid motion that seemed to stop time itself, he came to full attention and raised his hand in a crisp, perfect salute. "Ma'am, your son saved my life and the lives of 3 of my Marines on March 22, 2019. I'm Commander James Reston. SEAL Team 3. David ran through enemy fire to get to us when our vehicle was hit. He could have stayed in cover. He should have, but he didn't. He kept us alive long enough for medevac to arrive." The pool had gone completely silent. Every person within earshot had stopped, frozen, watching this scene unfold. The teenage girls lowered their phones. The young mother put her hand over her mouth. The man in expensive swim trunks stood motionless, his face pale. Commander Reston held his salute, unwavering, as tears streamed down Sarah's face. She couldn't move, couldn't breathe. All she could do was stare at this man, this living, breathing proof that David's death had meaning. "I've been looking for you for 6 years," the commander continued, his voice thick with emotion, but his salute still perfect. "I wanted you to know that because of your son's courage, I got to go home to my wife and meet my daughter for the first time. Those coordinates on your shoulder? They're sacred to me too. David gave me my life back." He finally lowered his salute, and when he did, he pulled off his rash guard. There, across his chest, was a tattoo of 4 names. David Martinez was the first. Sarah pulled herself out of the pool, her therapy forgotten, her pain suddenly irrelevant. The commander met her halfway, and she collapsed into his arms, sobbing, really sobbing, for the first time since the funeral. Around them, the entire pool stood in respectful silence. Some people saluted. Others had tears in their eyes. The teenage girls were crying openly, and the man in the expensive swim trunks quietly gathered his things and left. Unable to meet anyone's gaze for 6 years, Sarah had carried the weight of David's death alone, had endured the stares and the judgment, had believed that maybe his sacrifice was forgotten by everyone except her. But in that moment, held by a stranger who was alive because of her boy, she finally understood. David's compass had brought someone home after all. Not him, but someone. And that would have made him smile that crooked smile and say, "Mission accomplished, Mom."